You see, every state has some resources. You cannot say that it is resource poor. Eastern UP is agriculture based, and there is a lot of groundwater, high level water tables, groundwater tables. So you would have to study the resources and see what is the kind of development there. In the planning history of India, we have had a time when area development networks were very important. You said, in fact, for Eastern UP, there was a Reserve Bank of India study in the 1980s for the eastern states, in fact, for all the eastern states. And they had suggested some things for that area. So, but unfortunately, whenever all these things are undertaken, the natural resource base is considered only in a very limited sense. You say you don't, if you want irrigation, most of the time we think of irrigation as large projects, surface irrigation projects. But there is a limit to large surface irrigation projects. And that limit will be reached, and will be there are estimates of all these things. I don't remember the figures now, but there are estimates. There can be another development paradigm where you think of groundwater, where you think of electricity for groundwater. In fact, they were thinking, Bihar is starting on those issues. And Bihar has talked of tube wells and groundwater as the basis for development of agriculture. So you cannot say that Eastern UP has no resources. It has it is agriculture, groundwater, and maybe many other things that don't come to mind immediately. But you can have a different pattern of development there. I'm talking of an ecologically fragile region where agriculture is limited to horticulture in the main, vegetable and fruit, and it has some it is not a region which exports anything from except processed fruit and vegetable, which is very important for Himachal Pradesh. So if you have good watershed management programs in the upper catchment, you protect the soil there, you add value to the horticulture and agricultural products there, which is vegetable. It's exporting vegetable and fruit. That is its specialization. And then on the other side, it may have to import grain, it may have to import wheat, we don't know. It doesn't have to, because population is only 6 to 8 million, I think, is now. It's a low population density region. So you see, when you have reached a certain level of literacy, you have reached a certain level of development, you can think of alternative paradigms. So and in fact, you should think of them even prior to that, as one of our participants just mentioned. But that's not the way we plan. In fact, this was for a district in Eastern UP. There was one of my colleagues who did a whole planning for that district. I forget the name, and that was based on resources, education. So you can have a district level planning framework, and then that can be used also. Good. So yes, yourself.
With increase in tourism, for example, with increase in tourism, with the increase in tourism, there'll be increase in, for example, we would expect an increase in, say, environmental pollution. Because like in one slide you showed distance traveled compared to tourists, something like that. So I'm just quite interested to know how you factored in the environment.
I can't get your point.
Sorry. Yeah. So I just want to know how you have factored in the environmental impacts due to increase in tourism.
Environmental impact of?
Increase in tourism.
Increase in?
Tourism. Tourism, yeah. So how have you factored that in the model?
Very good question. Huh? At the moment, we are assuming in this that she has raised a very interesting question. I can repeat the question. is there an environmental impact of an increase in tourism itself? That is something that is also being studied. And the idea is that does tourism, now at the moment we can say no, because we haven't reached those limits. The impact can be in two ways. In many national parks and other places this has been studied. One is the number of people who are visiting the national park. The second is the manner in which they are using the national park. If the number increases beyond a certain level, there may be an environmental impact of tourism itself. That's right. It has not been studied so far in the Himachal context, not here at least. In Himachal, it's a spread out place and it's not going to be impacted. But if you look at Keoladeo National Park, which is located here, Bharatpur, there may be an environmental impact. One of the things that we all know about is polythene bags and how the animals and birds can swallow these polythene bags and this harms them, or also and that can have an impact on the tourism, because if there are no birds you'll have no tourists. So there is a kind of circular relationship between these two things. More tourists means higher incomes from tourism, but in the long run, in a dynamic sense, it may also mean a decrease in income in the future because of these environmental impacts. So that has to be studied separately. We have not done it because it's only 2013. We are not going too far, it's just 20 years' time. But it could have a negative impact also. Tourism could have a negative impact. Any other questions or suggestions, something? Yes, huh?
Thank you for your talk, ma'am. I just want to ask on the financial incentive from the central government so that states will save their natural resources. How effective is that?
So far, there are many mechanisms through which this can happen. So far, the 13th Finance Commission, which gave its report 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 2011, I think, yeah, started thinking about this. And it has given some financial incentives to states if they preserve their forests or if they clean their rivers. So there are some grants in aid which are linked to the forest cover. But this is not really so far well thought out in a large way in India. It's a beginning, like the center-state relations should take care of this. And many committees have talked about it, not done so far in India. And the 13th Finance Commission was the first to actually say that a grant in aid will be given, and that was the Himachal Pradesh got some huge grants in that context for the next 5 years. So that is happening, but not, it should be a part of the system. Otherwise, other ways are, you see, grants in aid for specific projects can also exist. But those will be project related and go in the context of those projects. Apart from, there are two mechanisms. One is through the Finance Commission, the other is through specific project linked grants, which happen all the time. Like if there is wind energy or if there are some such things, they get specific grants from those ministries then. Any other questions, suggestions? Yeah, Mala. Yes.
Ma'am, we are having so much advancement in technology, using items which are made use and throw items. We buy it once, it is irreparable, and then we have to throw it and buy another one. How sustainable are we going? How are we going sustainable with these advancement in technology?
Advance, what kind? Financial advance?
No, advancement in technology. We are
Ah.
using mobiles, we are using computers and many things which are being designed as use and throw items. They are irreparable, and once, I mean, we are not able to get them maintained.
No, what you are saying is, you see, that some kinds of technology results in not being unsustainable consumption. Now you are raising the issue of technology and consumption. That is not linked, but I will take some of these issues, take on some of these issues. Some advances in technology help environment. The computer, for instance, I think saves a lot of paper. We used to use a great deal of paper earlier, and in some ways it helps. But e-waste is a problem. Then you have to manage waste. So the general argument is that you should look at, as they say, a life cycle analysis of a product. From birth till death, what happens to the life cycle, in its whole life cycle, what impact is it having? Some studies are done on life cycle analysis of products. Now, but some kinds of technology is what we call green technology, technology that helps to recycle, that helps to reuse, and that is the direction in which our technology should move. Recycle, reuse. The third R is what in this, I've forgotten now. But those are the things that technology can help. For instance, technology can also help in saving resources, saving natural resources. So those are the kinds of, that's what is called green technology. You can move towards sources of energy like solar and wind energy, which are based on renewable energy, rather than oil and all the rest of it, which is based on some kind of exhaustible energy reserves. That's the big challenge. If we are able to solve our energy problems and our water problems, those are the two major issues in the country today that we need to look at for a sustainable development program. Water, energy, biodiversity, number of things, but each time you have to, but that vision, that lens is not a part of our political planning processes. That's the whole problem. They have moved a little bit in the 12th plan, they do talk about it a little more than they did earlier. But the whole thing is not, the reason why it's not happening either in India or internationally is that a large part of these resources are not a part of the market system. They are not a part of the market system, and so the political economy doesn't take note of
I was pointing more towards the use of mobiles and cameras, which once used, we have to throw it out after, say, 2 years or 3 years use.
That's right. So you see, if you look at decision-making processes, there is advancement in knowledge on one side, and then there are decision-making. So you cannot really link these two at the same time. There will always be a time lag between these two. So and in India we have had phases when the environment has been important, and then phases when it has taken a back seat. Currently, I am afraid it's taking a back seat in the political context. It's okay.